Hello everybody. So today I'm going to be installing a doggy door for a friend of mine. They got this current doggy door, but as you can see, it's pretty torn up. So they asked me to come over and take a look at it and try to fix it. First, I gotta unscrew the old doggy door and see what I'm working with. So right now I'm just grabbing the electric screwdriver I have and just unscrewing it. I would definitely recommend you grab you one. They are so helpful. Just look online, see which one has 5 stars, see which one has close to 5 stars, and then grab you an electric screwdriver that has a nice set of bits attached to it. So you just grab that whole thing every time you want to go and do anything. That helps out so much. I don't remember exactly how they are now. I don't know what brands are out now, but it's well worth it. Just grab you one, take a look and see what they got. So one of the issues I'm having with this old doggy door is that it meets in the middle. There's some screws, you gotta take them out. But for the new one, it's a lot bigger and it's not going to be closing over the middle part. Right, so a lot of doggy doors, they will cover over the middle of the door, whether it's foam, whether it's wood, whether it's cardboard, no matter what it is, it'll kind of cover it. This doggy door is much more of a heavy duty one and it's all metal and acrylic on the inside. So you're not going to have that covering in the middle like you will. So sadly, I don't do that in the video, but I do that in the next part. So now I got to measure out exactly how far up I got to cut. So they do have a measurement on the instructions, which helps out a lot. So all I got to do is grab the measuring tape and mark it, which is what I'm about to do here. So you see me. I'll measure on the right hand and the left hand side, and then from there I will be able to determine exactly how high I need to cut, how wide I need to cut, etc., etc. Now thankfully for this door, it was about the same width, so all I had to do was leave it be. I didn't have to fill anything in, I didn't have to take anything away, which was extremely helpful. Oh man, my hand's covering it up, but yeah, I'm just marking it with a piece of tape, the height, and I'm using the bottom of the tape to mark the height. It's not perfect, but it's good enough, because once I get it good enough, then I'll be able to get the level in. And that's where I can put the piece of tape that goes a long ways, and then from there I'll be able to see exactly where I'm supposed to cut, if that makes sense. Right? So it's not perfect, but on the bottom of my leveler, I got a bunch of dirt from my other jobs, and it's just solidified at the bottom. Dirt, concrete, all sorts of stuff, so I just flipped it over to try and use that flattest edge to get as level as a spot as I could. Now my apologies for the dirty house, but like I said, I don't know these people, I don't know this house. So, you work in what you're given, right? Now I got the top level. I gotta plug in my jigsaw so that way I'm gonna be able to cut. Got it plugged in, got it lined up with the bottom part as clean as it can be. Now one of the things I would recommend is you give yourself a little bit of extra room, and I do mean a very little bit. Because obviously if you cut it perfectly, the blade is going to account for a slight margin of error. And so if you're trying to get it as clean as possible, it's going to be a bit too tight, which is one of the issues I ran into. But you'll see later on in the video I obviously fixed that. But for now, yeah, I'm just cutting it with what I got. And I got my mouth respirator on so that way I won't inhale all of those foam flakes. You definitely don't want those going into your system. But yeah, so the jigsaw is going to be cutting it up, and then I'm going to have to go across at an angle so that way I can get the top side. So I had two different options, either drill a hole and then start at one of the corners. And the whole method's not a bad method, I like it, but this way I had the jigsaw out, I didn't bring my drill bits, so all I had was the jigsaw, so I was like, alright, I'll do it this way. So I get that out, notice the back side isn't completely cut, so just do that last little bit, cut that, and threw it too hard. Gotta be careful and pay attention to where you're throwing. But then I just cut the last bit out. There it is. Take those chunks out. No hard issues so far. you know, cutting something out that's already pre-cut is pretty easy. You know, it's starting from ground zero, that's always the hard part. So I got the acrylic piece cut out. Now I need to drill in the door. So the tape is going to be where the door is at. The metal frame. When I say the door, right, I'm talking about that metal frame. That metal frame is going to have to be all across that opening. So as you see, the door opens. I just got to get it level because one of the things I had, you see at the top there, it's getting hit on something. It's getting stuck. It was a little too flush. So I had the jigsaw, and I don't want to cut any more because if I cut too much more, it's going to not fit perfectly. I didn't want that, but I brought my sander. So that sander is going to help me to trim it down a little bit. So all these tools do help. Obviously, you can do this by hand, right? I've been working for a bit, so when it comes to trying different tools, that is one thing I am blessed with because I remember doing all this by hand and it takes a while. But the bright side is, right, you can do it by hand. So I'm sanding it down. I want to say that was 120 to 60 grit sandpaper. Again, this is all going to be covered, so it doesn't have to be super clean, but it's just enough to get all that out of there. The dog food and dog water, don't worry, I changed that out afterwards. I should have covered it, but I didn't. So afterwards, I went over there and said, hey, we got to change this out. There's probably a bunch of flakes of who knows what in there. So dump that old stuff, change the water out, rinse it all out, cleaned up very well to make sure that the dog's got nothing but pristine food and water. My favorite part is always tearing off the acrylic cover. Always so much fun. And I don't mean just for dog doors, right? You got a computer, you want to tear off that little PC cover, the case, the glass that goes over it, man, it's so nice. You buy something new, peeling it down. Only problem is I wait to peel it. Now that I sanded it though, the glass slides extremely smoothly. So I got to drill it in. I got the drill, I got everything attached. Now I need somebody to help me hold it. There is another way I can hold it in place with like a horseshoe clamp, you know, take off that acrylic piece and horseshoe clamp the top, make sure I got it level. But somebody was there to help me, so I said, you know what, I'm going to take the help. So just use the help. Now currently I'm using a screw, just a regular kind of drywall screw. I was going to use a deck screw, but it's not that bad, it's covered. So it will hold its spot. The problem is the door is foam, so there's no real grip in it. So one of the issues I have is the door itself, the hinges, they have screws and they touch against the flat side of the metal. So while it is well made, it's not 100% kind of flush. So you'll see later on how I fix that, but for now, I'm noticing that it's not completely flush. I'm noticing that the screws aren't really completely tight. They're gonna give out eventually. And I'm not sure, I don't think I got a video of it. I'm trying to screw them in currently to see if I can drill a hole into the door itself and maybe even have some more structural integrity. More points of contact means more structural integrity. But no, it's just the two screws that are reaching in there, obviously just at the edge there. So not a good build, not a good sign that it's going to hold in the long term. So I got my angle grinder out. I'm going to be angle grinding those ends of the screws out so that way they are going to be as flush as possible. I'm going to put my fingers over it, try to feel for any rough edges or anything. Not set the angle grinder down immediately on the floor so it does, you know, a blade spin. One of the things I wanted to try was liquid nails and see if I could spray that in the holes and then put the screw in there and see if that would hold and So one of the reasons I wanted to show this is don't do this, okay? This was so stupid. Nothing happened, but something could have happened. Do not angle grind with just a needle nose while holding in a magnet and no protection. I had my mouthpiece, I had other things, but yeah, I didn't have any other protection for my hands. So that was stupid. Never do that. So I'm going to be screwing in those pieces now. I apologize for the recording, but sadly this is as good as I got. Got those screws finally put in, and the dog door will hold for a little bit. Now, I noticed that it's not closing completely because there was a higher pressure inside than there was outside, so it's trying to push out the air, which is going to force any little crack in that dog door open. So I got some magnets, and that was what I was cutting with the angle grinder earlier, was to try and hold the dog door in place, was to put a magnet on the door and a magnet in the door frame itself. So I was trying some silicone, I was trying some liquid nails, didn't work. Later on I'll try silicone again, Dynaflex 260 I want to say. And that usually holds things okay. You know, super glue would have just been fine, but I didn't have any laying around, so I'm just trying to work with what I got. And again, this is all for somebody, so I'm not getting paid for this. This is all just helping people out. So I'm trying to work with what I got. If I had more money to use obviously use better materials, I would. But I had some DAP laying around, some Dynaflex, like I said, 260 I want to say. And so I used that, and it worked great to kind of seal it. So to also help hold it in place. Not very well, but it'll help a little bit. I noticed that it's not as nice as I'd like it to be, so I do a little trim on it. Clean it up a little bit so that way I can get a nice little corner edge. And it's decent. I wish it was better, but it wasn't. So I got the edges refined, I got the silicone around it to kind of hold itself in place. And that magnet just would not stay. I don't know what it was, but for the life of it, it just would not hold. So I was trying to think at this point, right? How can I get it to hold? I got some foam. There was a bit at the top that needed some sealing. So I just got some rolling foam that I can just stick wherever I need to kind of give it some extra insulation. Not much, it doesn't really matter for this job, but when you can, right, why not? I don't want to cover up that middle hole. That's going to be where it rotates all the time, so one, it's going to knock the foam out, and two, it's just not going to cover anything. But I remember at this point, while I'm working, trying to figure out a way to hold that magnet in place. And I really didn't want to damage the metal structure and drill a permanent hole through the middle. And like I said, I didn't have my bits either, so I couldn't go and drill anything. And so like I said, I got silicone. I believe this is the silicone at that point. And I'm just trying to get any way to stick. I mean, I know there's metal glue and, like I said, super glue, just something to get it to stick. So this was either metal glue or super glue. I'm not too sure. But one of them, again, I finally got it to stuck and it held fine. And then I just drilled the other magnet into the middle of the door itself. Now later on, I apologize, in the video I did not put that in. I don't know why I didn't. I did a wooden frame for it and it worked great.